And away we go again. Hey everybody, thank you so much for all the questions you've submitted for my 4th question and answer video. It really means a lot. You guys are awesome. I'm going to answer every single one of them. I'm going to try to just fly through them here, and I don't know what order they're in or whatever like that, but I'm going to read them all. I'm going to go through every single one of them, and if I pronounce any names a little bit weird or off, please forgive me. I'm horrible about that. Just bear some patience. Okay, Loe Pretty Boy asks, and I hope I pronounced that right. I'm not really great at that again. Anyway, what is your favorite James Bond film? And my answer to this is going to be really, really weird. Usually my favorite James Bond movies that jump into my head are the ones where I liked his co-stars. I know that sounds weird. So, like, if I think James Bond movies that I love, I'm going to think, oh my God, From Russia with Love, just because Robert Shaw was in it. I'm a huge Robert Shaw fan. Or I'm going to think, who was the greatest James Bond girl ever? And I'll think, oh, Jill St. John. And all of a sudden I'll start thinking, Diamonds Are Forever. Or, I'm going to start thinking, Jane Seymour. And I'm going to think, Live and Let Die. And of course I'm going to think, like, The Man with the Golden Gun. Simply because of Christopher Lee. How can you not love anything with Christopher Lee in it? But if I'm thinking of the ones that are really my favorites or the ones I like the most or anything like that, I'm going to try to condense it to a few because I don't even know how I can do it. There's so many movies and all that kind of stuff. I obviously loved, because I reviewed Moonraker, I thought it was so goofy and cheesy and all that kind of crap. I just thought it was just so over the top. And I seen it at that right point in time in my life where it was like, oh my God, it's a space James Bond movie. I was a kid. It was right after Star Wars. So that one will always hold a little teeny place in my heart. Another one that I love is Casino Royale with Daniel Craig. I thought he did an awesome job. I thought the movie was an incredible motion picture. I just thought it delivered. It did everything right. That movie's good. That's all I can say. And the one movie that I think, too, where they just hit everything in there was The Spy Who Loved Me. I just think that they just went over the top. I mean, from the cars to the bases to everything like that, the submarines, they just went over the top. And I really, really, really always liked that one, just because they threw so much shit into the mix that I just thought, how can you not love this James Bond flick? It's weird because I'm not really naming a lot of James Bond flicks where you think would be just gravitated to Sean Connery, who I still think was probably the ultimate James Bond. But when you're talking about the ones that pop into my head that I like the most, that I remember the most, those are usually it. Moonraker, Spy Who Loved Me, Diamonds Are Forever, Casino Royale. Those are like the ones that I kind of dive into that. Live and Let Die was in it. Well, nah. The ones I already named. Okay, LPB asks, that's short for Late Pretty Boy, so I can kind of condense it. He asks, what is my favorite action film? Oh my God, that's so tough because there's so many. I'm probably going to have to say Escape from New York, because I am a freak for Escape from New York. I love that motion picture. I'll get more to the star of it in a minute, but I love Escape from New York. I also love Assault on Precinct 13. As an action flick, I just think that thing was ridiculous. The original Terminator and the second Terminator. Action flicks, my God, I love that shit. You know what I mean? Those are the ones that are jumping out at me right now. There's some other ones that are action flicks, but are maybe more drama, like the original The Getaway with Steve McQueen, or stuff like that. But when you're talking just, the gunplay and the running and gunning and the action just built for being an action flick, I usually think Escape from New York, Assault on Precinct 13, the Terminator flicks, stuff like that. Aliens, the second one, too. You know what I mean? That was wicked. So it's usually out of them, and I would have to pull it all apart. And if you ask me which day of the week it is, I'll probably give you a different answer. KLPB also asks, what is my favorite TV show? Oh, these questions are so hard. They are so good, though. My favorite TV shows, or show, I almost can't nail, but I can nail it down to a small group. Obviously, I'm a huge Star Trek freak. I've always been. The first 2 seasons were great. The third, but I love the original Star Trek just the way it is. I'm also a fanatic of the original Kung Fu with David Carradine. First 2 seasons, third one, first 2 seasons were just amazing. The reboot of Battlestar Galactica that happened in the 2000s and whatever, I thought was one of the best things I'd ever seen in my life. I love that show. As far as like comedies or something go, I will always be Three's Company. I love that show. Always will. Made me laugh harder than anything I've ever seen. And I will always love the early days of Married with Children, which I just thought was hilarious. And I am a freak for Benny Hill. Maybe not the last few years of the Benny Hill show, but the early Benny Hill show. It was such a variety show. You had the songs, you had the girls, you had the skits, you had the fast humor, you had all that kind of stuff. I love, always will love, on the whole collection of Benny Hill. He's the man to me. What is my favorite horror movie? Oh, this is a good batch of stuff. My favorite will always be the original Halloween. Bar none. As far as like horror slasher things go, I think it was the perfect motion picture of its time or of any time. It was just so well done. It was so well shot. It was so, the mood, everything of Halloween is just perfect to me. There are others that I love. I mean, I love the original, or the remake of The Thing that Carpenter did. I just thought that was probably as good as it's going to get. And second place would probably have to be, I don't know if you consider it a horror movie, but if not The Thing, Jaws. I love Jaws. I think Jaws is perfect. I know the shark looks rubbery now and whatever, it's fucking all these years later, but I think Jaws is amazing, and I've probably seen it more than any other motion picture in the history of my life. And I, bar none, even Halloween or Escape from New York, Jaws, I've seen it a trillion times, love it, can never get enough of it. I'll never turn it on and say, nah, not in the mood. Always. Okay, LPBS, who is my favorite actor? I probably said this before, and I hinted at it a minute ago, but easily Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell's my favorite actor. Living, dead, all time, you name it. Simply because he can do comedy like no other. We're talking whether it's Used Cars. We're talking whether it was whatever the fuck it was. Whether it was The Best of Times with Robin Williams, no matter what it was. That guy could do comedy. He could do action, obviously, Escape from New York, Soldier, all that kind of shit. He can do action easily. He can do drama, whether it was a movie like The Mean Season. If you've never seen it, you've got to check out The Mean Season. That movie is just fucking amazing, and people seem to never talk about it as much. So you're talking about a guy that can cover every base, do the whole thing, and do each one of them convincingly. So, hands down, my favorite actor. Okay, the final question by LPB is, do I think that Daniel Craig will die, or James Bond should be retired in the upcoming James Bond movie? And absolutely not. I don't think James Bond should go anywhere, and I don't think he should be retired. I don't think he should be changed. I don't think he should be morphed around. I don't think any of that kind of stuff. That I have no interest in seeing anything like that happen. I think there's too much of a push sometimes to get rid of the James Bond character and to morph him into something else, replace him with a female character or whatever. But James Bond is who James Bond is. It's a great, legendary character that we all know and love, and I think he should be, frankly, left alone. A lot of times when people say this, or with me saying it, I don't know, they kind of have this weird vibe, like you're like, oh, it's like, oh, you don't want to see the diversity. It has nothing to do with that. Some of my favorite characters in other motion pictures are female or whoever. It doesn't make a difference. But I don't want to see Tomb Raider starring a dude any more than I want to see James Bond turned into whoever he's going to be turned into. James Bond is James Bond. Go out and write great characters, whether they're for women. I mean, God knows there have been some great ones, whether it was Elizabeth Salander, whether it was like, being played by Noomi Rapace, who I love, or Rooney Mara, who did phenomenal in the American version, or whether it was like Ripley leading the Alien series, or even Voight, or however you pronounce Mila's last name, with all the Resident Evil flicks or something like that. Those are movies I wouldn't want to see anybody starring in them but them, or fronted by them. I don't want to see Ripley become a dude. I don't want to see the girl with the dragon tattoo become the guy with the dragon tattoo. I don't want to see any of that kind of crap, and I don't want to see James Bond morphed or changed or whoever. He's a British guy, secret agent, whatever. Let him be. Keep rolling with it. Don't kill the character. Don't change the character. And we need characters of all kinds of walks of life, and it doesn't make a difference, but write great movies for them. Don't take an existing character, swap them around. Okay, Subway is asking. Subway Switch, by the way, is asking me, do you think UK programs translate well into their American versions and vice versa? I don't really know how our versions translate into European versions, but I do know how some European versions translate into ours, and I think they can be done incredibly well. I mean, we just got done talking about Three's Company with Man About the House, you know, being the original foundation of it, the original version of it, and I thought what they did over here was amazing. It kept the same vibe, feel, basically, and it worked and it translated well. Is there a difference in somewhat the British humor and the American humor? Obviously. I mean, there's some people that will just never get Monty Python in America. It just will throw them. There's some people that'll never get Benny Hill in America. It'll throw them. Or Dave Allen. Remember Dave Allen at large years ago? He used to be that comedian sitting in a chair, smoking and drinking the whole night. Some people just aren't going to get it. Those kind of shows you can't even really make an American version because they're variety shows. But when it comes to TV shows, yeah, I think we can swap and throw some things around. I mean, we've redone some of the movies from over there, whether you take something like La Femme Nikita and over here it's Point of No Return. I still like La Femme Nikita better. But Point of No Return was almost shot for shot, and it worked. People liked it. It moved on. Sometimes I do think, though, that they screw up classic TV shows because they want to open it to an American audience. Like, take Space 1999, for example, which is a show I used to watch as a kid. The first season was awesome. Well, it was good, but it was really good. The second season, where they came in there and they kind of revamped everything to try to make it American-friendly, and they just screwed it all up to the 10th degree. There's like a zillion goofy monsters and all this other kind of shit going on. You know, when that kind of stuff happens and you start, you know, pissing in the swimming pool, it just, I don't really like it. But, so anyway, I guess my answer is I think it can be done great. I think it can be done sketchy. All depends on the source material. Also, Subway asks me, is there any horror movie that still scares me to watch in the dark? And you said yours was Halloween and you felt funny because you're 50 and all that kind of stuff. I'm 50. Don't worry about that. Halloween is still one of the greatest, if not the greatest, movie of all time as far as horror goes. In my heart, I just believe that. I just think it's perfectly done, and it is awesome. The problem for me is that I've seen Halloween so many times. I watch it and I love it and I sink into the vibe and the feel and the mood. But do I really get scared anymore? Yeah, not really. Do I really get scared at any of the slasher flicks anymore? Not really. For me, anything that would like freak me out in the dark has to be something that is more the unseen than the seen these days. The last movie that really gave me a vibe like that, I thought it was well done. Some people love it, some people hate it, which was the Blair Witch Project, because you didn't see anything. There was nothing to visually base it on. It was all in your head. And I think movies like that, or movies like The Changeling from years ago, which I just thought was phenomenal, or even the original version of The Haunting, which was just amazing, because it's just noises and sounds. That kind of stuff will still leave a feeling in me way more than any of the more modern stuff, you know, whether it's a slasher flick or anything. That, even though I think Halloween is the mother of all invention of greatness when it comes to horror, I just feel, for me, that literally the alone in the dark watching a movie thing, it has to be something I can't see, it has to be something supernatural, and it has to be out of the world that I'm living in. You know what I mean? It can't be a guy with a knife. You know, in my head I'll just be like, oh, clock the guy. But, you know, it has to be something that you can't control. Okay, Bolzano Strangelove has a little group of questions for me, and let's just dive into it. They're always cool. The first one is, what is your favorite Michael Ironside movie, if you have one? And you just named my favorite. So, Scanners. Easily Scanners. Now, that movie made such an impression on me when I was a kid. One, it was mind fucking blowing with the heads exploding and the mental powers and everything like that. It was just creepy feeling. I just thought he was so powerful, and he was so new on the scene too at that point, that was like what laid the groundwork to everything that you would think of Michael Ironside after that. Now, the thing about Michael Ironside, he's been in like 4 trillion goddamn things. I mean, whether it was Terminator Salvation, whether it was fucking Top Gun, the list, he's been in a million things, so there's so many hard things to pick from. But Scanners will always be the movie. I think Michael Ironside, I think Scanners. Another movie, though, there was a goofy flick that he was in. And, no, not the Highlander sequels. Go out there and look up a movie called Space Hunter Adventures in the Forbidden Zone. This movie, in every way, shape, and form, is a pile of shit. There's no other way around it. But the fun of the motion picture was Michael Ironside playing this fucking crazed bad guy, Overdog, I think his name was. And he is just hilarious. And I don't know if he meant to be, but the whole thing is hilarious, top to bottom, left to right. Look up Space Hunter Adventures in the Forbidden Zone. It was just one of those movies. And when I think of him, I always think Scanners, that. And then I sit back and I say, oh yeah, well obviously he was in 4 million goddamn things. Some big names, some small names. But the guy's kind of like a legend at this point. I mean, he's had to be in like goddamn near 300 movies or something. It's ridiculous. Balzano also asks, have you seen any Bing Crosby films? And if so, thoughts? I know the road movies were really popular. Going My Way was a big hit and all those. Okay, let me get down to brass taxes on this. I grew up with my grandmother. My mother and my father got divorced when I was like less than a year old, so she went and lived with my grandmother, and I watched what she watched. That's how TV worked, you know, in our household back then. And everything that she watched is what I seen and took in. So we're talking about, you know, some great classic shit. We're talking about if it had Gene Kelly in it, if it had Fred Astaire in it, if it had Bing Crosby in it, if it had Danny Kaye in it, if it had Donald O'Connor in it, you know, all those kind of movies, the Andrews Sisters, if they popped up in it, you knew you were going to watch it. And of course, I've seen a lot of Bing Crosby movies. Now, for me, the two that will always jump out at me are going to be White Christmas and Holiday Inn. And my favorite will always be White Christmas. Only probably because it was that one that we always sat around every year when it would come on. It was kind of like your Wizard of Oz. You know what I mean? Or it was kind of like when you would wait for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Every year, me and my grandmother would sit down and watch White Christmas. And it was just the thing. So in my mind, I think Bing Crosby, I immediately go right to White Christmas. And then like, you know, Holiday Inn or something right after that. But White Christmas is the one. Okay, Balzano also asks, I think I saw you in one of your videos with a Black Ops t-shirt. If I remember that right, if my memory serves correctly, most definitely does. Do you play PlayStation or Xbox? If so, what's your favorite game console? Okay. There was a time when me and my son were heavy into gaming. I mean, heavy into gaming. I didn't do any game. When I was a kid, I played the Atari 2600. That shows you how old I am. And then, like, the Nintendo hit. And I hadn't played anything since, like, the original Nintendo. And then my son was born, and in the mid-90s, later 90s, we just went on a gaming bonanza. And I was loyal to, and still am, the PlayStation. PlayStation fanatic. I love the way the controllers felt. I love the system. And we went nuts. We would have these, oh my God, we would have these marathon sessions of playing games. We would go out and just buy games like crazy. Usually, you know, not a lot of money to spend on these things, so it was like the year later when they got knocked down to like $20 or something, we would just run out and grab them. And whether it was Cool Borders, or whether it was Siphon Filter, or whether it was whatever the hell it was. There was so many of them, like, it boggles the brain. But, yeah, PlayStation in a big way. I don't do it as much as I used to. I had a huge run of, like, I was addicted to every Call of Duty, Medal of Honor game that you could ever even fucking imagine. I bought them all and played them like nuts. And also all the knockout, the boxing games, you know, played all those like crazy. I haven't played that much in like the last 8 or 10 years, to be honest. Before that, though, there was like a 10-year block where I played like a lot. And also, your next question is, do I play multiplayer or campaign? I always just played the campaigns. I was a campaign person. My son, big multiplayer guy. Him and his friends are like crazed multiplayer. At one point, they had a basement with like multiple TVs in it so they could all play each other and other people at once. It was insanity. But they're all like that. They play each other every day. I'm a campaign guy and then out, except for one thing that me and my son would co-op together on, and that was at the Call of Duty games. There was a tack-on game at the end called Nazi Zombies. We would play that like fanatics. We would sit there and the two of us would be in a room. We'd be shooting all the zombies coming in and all that, and running upstairs and fortifying it and all this other shit. So that was probably as close. If it wasn't a game like, you know, tennis or whatever, playing against each other, it was Nazi Zombies, and we played the shit out of that. Okay, I got a few questions from Dav Caligari. Let's get to it. Would you ever review some Lee Van Cleef westerns? Oh my God. Here's the thing about Lee Van Cleef. I love Lee Van Cleef. I think he's just cooler than shit. He was always cooler than shit. It's just the way it goes. My thing is that I can't believe I haven't done more westerns or any. I had to actually go back and look at my videos before this. I'm like, didn't I ever do any westerns? And as I'm scrolling backwards, I'm like, holy shit, I haven't done. I don't think I've done any. I really don't. Maybe I did, but I just don't remember it, and I couldn't see any really quick. So, would I and will I? Yes, I most definitely will. Whether it was Sabata or, Shot Liberty Valance or anything he did with Eastwood. You know what I mean? You gotta love those movies. And my favorite thing is that when Lee Van Cleef popped up in Escape from New York, Kurt Russell said, he goes, I'm gonna make Snake Plissken sound like Clint Eastwood, because whenever he sees Lee Van Cleef, he thinks Eastwood. And that's how, Snake Plissken got that attitude that he had. So yeah, love Lee Van Cleef. I will get there to westerns. I'm going to get there. Somebody asked before, I can't remember who asked me, but would I ever do war flicks? I plan on that too. Actually, I'm working on Force 10 from Navarone, which was one that I just loved, that gets completely overlooked. I'm going to be doing that. So I'll get there, hopefully soon enough. Dav also asked, do I like Runaway Train with Jon Voight? Runaway Train was a really good flick. Really good flick. I haven't seen it in ages. But I remember seeing it one time on cable way back in the day, and I liked it. Oh, that thing's really good. I got to buy a copy of it and watch it again before I review it. But I remember it at the time. I liked it. It was a good flick. I just wish I had seen it more recently. I hate to say it, but hopefully I'll see it again. Also, Dav asked, do I like any other Jon Voight movies? And yeah, actually I do. He did some really good stuff. I mean, we're talking, he was in Deliverance, which was awesome. He was in the Odessa Files. Good flick. He was in Coming Home, which was another good flick. And he was in a movie that I actually seen in the theaters. It was heartbreaking as a kid, because it was like, being a boxing fanatic, my mother took me to see it and all that kind of stuff. And it was a movie called The Chap with little Ricky Schroeder. As his dad dies and little Ricky's crying over him and all that kind of stuff, it was just crushing. So yeah, I like Jon Voight. I think he's a good actor. You know what I mean? Doesn't get used enough. And oh my God, how the fuck could I almost not forget to mention Midnight Cowboy? Are you fucking shitting me? Midnight Cowboy was phenomenal. So, yeah, I like Jon Voight, been in a bunch of great movies. I think they should have used him even more for some other shit, to be honest. I think he's a better talent than what they've given him, recently anyway. But yeah, Jon Voight is cool. Okay, Dav's last question is, what do you think of Chap, the Night Stalker? Oh, let me go into that. I think it's amazing. I love it. It's weird that it completely flew under my radar and I didn't know about it. I didn't hear about it as a kid. I somehow missed out on the whole damn thing. I don't know why. Maybe my grandmother just didn't watch it, so we didn't really see it. But I never really knew about it until a friend of mine was driving me apeshit crazy when I used to work with her. And she said, you and your wife got to watch this show called The X-Files. You got to see The X-Files. You got to see The X-Files. I don't really watch that much episodic television. I really don't. Other than in the last 25 years, it's like Battlestar, The X-Files, and Space Above and Beyond. Other than that, I really don't follow that kind of stuff too much. And she kept saying, you guys got to watch it. So me and my wife turned in one night, we watched it, and we were fucking like, this is awesome. This is great. And then I kept seeing people saying, oh man, X-Files reminds me of, Kolchak the Night Stalker and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what are they talking about? How do I not know of this? So I went and I looked up and I was like, oh my God, on the internet. So I got to see this thing. And it wasn't until I started seeing episodes popping up on YouTube and I was able to watch them that I could appreciate them. But now, thank God, I can actually go and watch the things, and this started several years ago, and watch them and be like, fucking, this is just fucking awesome. How did I not see it? How did I not know? And how did it go under my radar? So, yeah, I think it's great. I think it's one of the great unsung shows that was kind of way ahead of its time, and it was just awesome. It's just that it wasn't on cable TV or TV around me when I was a kid. Never seen it. All the Outer Limits, all the fucking Twilight Zones, seen all that shit. But that, no. Just don't know how I didn't see it. Weird. And lastly, I got a couple of questions from my family. My wife wanted to know if I could have a job in any part of the motion picture industry, what would it have been? And honestly, it would have been a director, because I don't care about acting or any of that kind of shit. That doesn't interest me. But directing, making, crafting a film is one of the major things that just I love. You know, I've directed the music videos for our band, and I have a movie that we shot years ago that I should put on YouTube one day. It was just family and friends all dicking together, and we made a horror movie, and I made that. I wrote it and directed and all that kind of shit. One day I'll stick it up here. And that's the part of it I would really enjoy, because that's where you're really making it, and you're putting the film together, and that would be fun. I think that would be fun. If not in that, I would really love to do sound design and sound editing, that kind of thing, or even scoring, but it would have to be like scoring low budget, because I like to work alone on stuff like that. And whether it was sound editing and design, I think that would be great. You know, all the guys you're layering in the sounds of the car doors and the planes overhead and all that kind of shit. That kind of stuff I just think would be interesting, and it would be awesome. I probably couldn't really do it at this point in my life because my hearing is so bad. I have the worst hearing in the world, you know what I mean? If you want to know behind the scenes thing, one of the reasons I always wear a hat is because I had so many ear infections as a little kid that my eardrums literally just collapsed and fell out. So I don't have any eardrums in my head, and I always wear hats because if you ever get hit in the ear with no eardrum by the wind, it'll catch your attention. And I have hearing aids in my head, so it keeps the rain off or the water or any of that kind of stuff, because my hearing is just shot. I mean, I've got like 20% in this ear, and I've got like maybe 50 in that. So, you know, it's a situation in and of itself. And finally, my son asks, what's your favorite live performance in a movie? Live music performance in a movie. Oh, man, that is tough. I don't know if there's anything, oh, man, that's really hard. I'm going to take it as far as live performance goes, means like a bunch of people on a stage. You know, not like Jesus Christ Superstar, which I love, but a bunch of people on stage just belting it out like they were a band. And the 4 or 5 that really go through my head is, Purple Rain probably has to be number 1, because the movie's just so awesome. I just love Purple Rain. I just think it's amazing. I think Light of Day, everything that happened in there was just great. You know what I mean? With Joan Jett and Michael J. Fox. I just thought that was awesome. And I have to add in a movie where it's a lip sync job, because he's not really singing any of this kind of stuff. But it would have to be Eddie and the Cruisers. I love Eddie and the Cruisers. And one of the reasons I just reviewed it is because I love that movie so much. I think Michael Paré, which did the greatest lip sync job ever. I think all the music by John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band just fits. And it also captured kind of what it was like to be in a band on stage. Because if, you know, there's only 2 places that matter if you're in a band. One is the studio and one is the stage. You know what I mean? And rehearsal, where you spend more time than doing any of the other 2, actually. But those movies kind of capture what it's like to be in a band. And being that I'm really a band guy, I like movies that capture what it's like to play in a club, and I like movies that capture what it's like for a real band to play in a club and see things on the real level of what we see. And for that, Light of Day and Purple Rain and fucking Eddie and the Cruisers, they just nail shit like that. So I guess Purple Rain would be number 1. Take for the rest as it is. Okay, everybody, I have been rambling way too long. I've been talking way too much. I've stretched this out probably way farther than it needs to be. Anyway, thanks everybody for the question. It meant a lot. You guys are awesome. You came up with some really, really good shit. I hope I didn't drone on too much. I have a tendency. Be good. Stay out of trouble. Take care of yourselves. Leave a lot of comments down below. Mix and match them with each other. I love to see what you guys think and what we talk about and your favorites of this. Not just my shit that I talk about, but your shit. Anyway, be good. Take care. Stay out of trouble. And above all else, under no circumstances ever take any bullshit from anybody. Be good.